Hey everybody, happy Saturday evening live tutorial stream. Hope everyone is doing well out there wherever you happen to be this Saturday evening. Wherever you are, we are so happy that you are watching the Beading Dream stream and you're going to spend some time with us this Saturday night. We have a fun tutorial for you this evening. We are going to be messing around with alcohol inks and metal, which is always a good time. Also, it's a time that requires paper towels, so you can look at that project for just a minute.
My whole day has required paper towels. I've spilled everything.
Well, that's fair. I mean, usually a day at the bead store requires paper towels in many configurations. But yeah, so alcohol inks and metal. So alcohol inks are fun because they actually will pretty much permanently bond onto metal, and you don't even generally, if it's a low traffic thing like this is, where I actually have put it on the inside of this earring, you don't even need a lacquer or anything usually to keep it on there. Like, see, it's not coming off on my hand. Oh, can somebody fetch Amy and Ab?
Yeah.
So, let's talk tools and supplies for this evening's tutorial. Alright, so you are going to need some 24 gauge sheet metal. I'm using copper. You are going to need 20 gauge wire. This is 20 gauge gold filled half hard wire. You're going to need 4 1/16 inch eyelets. These are actually more of like a scrapbooking or bookbinding finding rather than one you'll find often in jewelry. They're super useful, and we're going to learn about them closer to the end of the tutorial. And that's it for supplies. Let's talk tools. There's a fair amount of tools for this evening's tutorial. Alright, you need pounding things. So you're going to need a chasing hammer and a rawhide mallet. You're going to need, I forgot something. You're going to need a bench block or bench block equivalent. You're also going to need a ring mandrel. Oh, I did put it on there. Look at me with the actual accurate supply list. So you're going to need a ring mandrel. Basically, you're going to need a curved surface to use when you're setting the second half of your eyelids. Oh, but there is something that I forgot. Is this. See, I knew there was something I forgot, at least one thing I forgot. Okay, so chasing hammer, mallet, bench block, ring mandrel. You're going to need your basic pliers. That's going to be your chain nose pliers. Those are the flat ones. Your round nose pliers, your wire cutters. You're also going to need a bail making pliers, the big ones. Right, that's this one with the giant barrel shapes. We're going to use that. Ooh, that's another thing I forgot. So we're going to use that to shape our earrings. You're also going to need a metal shears. If this chain won't stay put, it is not going to make it to the second stream. You're going to need a metal shears, a dividers, which is this tool right here, is helpful. Not 100% necessary, but since we're dealing mainly with straight lines and straight cuts tonight, it is really helpful and helps make the whole process a little bit more efficient. You're going to want some 320 grit sandpaper and possibly some fine steel wool. That's going to be for finishing your edges, and a hole punch. And you want a hole punch that has a 1/16 inch 1/16 inch punch pin to go with your 1/16 inch eyelets. So I am going to right now do something that I did not do when I made the prototype for this class, and I had a purple fingernail for quite a while. So a recommended part of this class, sorry, this one's just going away, is gloves. Okay, alcohol ink will stain the heck out of your fingers. It will also stain the heck out of whatever your surface you're working on, so make sure that you have your work surface protected. What's up? It's underneath the rivets.
Okay, sorry.
You're fine.
Interrupting.
All good. So protect your work surface, and if you're wearing clothing that you care about, protect your clothing. Okay, so aprons, you know, drop cloths, all of these things when you're working with the alcohol inks are super important. And of course, you do need alcohol ink for this tutorial, which shockingly is something that I missed on the supply list. So let's talk for a second about alcohol inks or solvent-based inks. So these are basically really, it's so good to know that the touchpad works with my gloves on. So these are really, really vibrant inks. They're solvent-based inks, and the easiest brand to find is Tim Holtz, but there are a lot of other alcohol inks out there. This one they carry out Michaels, but if you go online, you can find a whole lot of different alcohol inks. And then even if you're looking for a budget way to do it, there are ways to even extract alcohol inks from solvent-based markers. Like there's a whole lot of things that you can do. But if you're just starting out, you can get a nice little sampler pack of the Tim Holtz alcohol inks for not very much money. And that's a good way to kind of get your feet wet and see if you actually like this. So I'm going to pull out, so I've got a couple of colors. I have this green that's called Lettuce. And I have this cranberry color, which leaks, you can see, so you can barely read the label, which is awesome. I have Indigo. Danger, flammable. Alcohol inks, not compatible with torches, just saying. Mermaid. And these are not Tim Holtz. These are a different brand, so I must have gotten these online. That is what. Let us make the project and stay on task. How about that? Alright, I've got teakwood, that's a brown. I've got eggplant, that's a purple as well. And that is all of my alcohol inks, because the rest of these are something else. Okay, so this part is actually really fun. So we're going to start by coloring our metal with the alcohol inks, which basically means that we're just going to drip the so anyway, this is the fun part. So we're going to decorate our metal by basically dripping our alcohol inks onto our metal. And since I don't really have a protection on my work surface, I'm going to avoid the edge, and I'm just going to kind of drip a fairly wide line, you know, somehow just a little bit in from the edge of my piece. So I'm a fan of this mermaid color. So your alcohol ink will spread a lot, and the dropper that comes with it gives you a pretty robust droplet of ink. You can see here, like it's pretty large. Now, if you get really, really into this, you can absolutely, you know, get smaller droppers. But okay, those are all my drops of mermaid, and now let's see, let's try lettuce. Maybe, if I can get it open. So this is interesting. So when I was doing my prototype, I sanded my metal first, and I found that my inks spread a lot, which I'm guessing is because I basically made them little roadways or little road maps in the metal. I did not sand my metal, mostly because in this particular tutorial I forgot that I had done that when I was making my prototype, and so it's not spreading, which is kind of fun. I felt like when I did my prototype that it spread too much and all my colors kind of blended together. So I'm liking this more. And I'm getting a little blending like when I'm getting the drops together. Oh, and then I could have terrible aim and just throw drops of this indigo on top of the other things. Goodness, Indigo, you just want to take over the world. Alright, we're going to do eggplant. So, alcohol inks are a fun and fairly easy way of coloring metal If you don't have access to more traditional ways of putting color on metal, like enamel, anodizing, powder coating, you know, all of these are ways that, I wouldn't say powder coating is traditional, but ways to put a permanent color onto metal, but most of them are quite expensive, require a fair amount of equipment, and usually aren't something that the average home jeweler has access to, or hobbyist jeweler at the very least. So alcohol inks are a really fun way to kind of color up your metal without resorting to any of those more expensive, more involved techniques. The other fun way to put color on metal is nail polish. Not even kidding. Nail polish is basically an enamel paint, and it is fantastic for coloring metal. Okay, so we're going to see how this did. I'm just going to dab it with my paper towel, and pretty cool. Alright, so I have this fun kind of pop art blobby pattern with my alcohol inks on my metal. I'm really happy with that. I'm very, very happy with that, actually. It turned out cool. Look how cool.
I love it.
So yeah, I think I'm definitely a fan of not sanding my metal, because I really did feel like on my prototype that the colors just all sort of mooshed together, and I really like the sort of separatedness of them on this. Now, this paper towel is definitely something that will stain things, so you just want to make sure you dispose of that in a way that's not going to hurt anything. And then we want to let the alcohol ink dry before we cut. So I'm going to let that side of the metal dry. I'm actually just going to go ahead and cut it off. Oh, that's funny. I'm sitting here going, why isn't my metal shears closing all the way? What's wrong? There are 4 magnets that are stuck on my metal shears. That's why they're not closing. Is this sterling I'm using? It's not, Jenny, it's copper. But I would imagine that the alcohol inks would work the same way, regardless of the metal. Alright, so I'm just going to remove this part of the metal, the part that I inked, and it's probably mostly dry by this point, but I'm just going to set that aside to dry, and I'm going to work on the other side of the metal to cut these wider pieces for the outsides of my earrings. So this is where this tool, a dividers, comes in handy. So a dividers is a tool that will help you pretty quickly and easily scribe. Looks silver online. Yeah, my camera really, like, anytime that I have shiny metal, it's just like, ooh, shiny, so much shiny, and it doesn't really do well with transmitting metal colors. So I can set my dividers to whatever width I want my strip of metal here to be, and then all I need to do is set my divider on the edge of my metal, like so, and then just pull my divider down my metal and it'll scribe me a line. So then I'm just going to cut on that line. And there you go, strip of metal. Now let's test this one. Okay, this one is dry as well. So I'm gonna do the same thing. Of course, the problem here is you've got to start with a straight edge, which I don't really have. So let's fix that first. so now I'm going to set my dividers skinnier. So on here, yeah, all right, so I've got that width. So that's going to be my little piece that's going to go down the middle of my earring. So I'm just going to take my dividers once again on the edge of my metal. Like so, and I'm just going to scribe my line all the way down. And now it's going to take me a minute to get to kind of the pretty part of this, so I'm kind of cutting away my border right now. So I'm just going to do that again, and I'm going to get some prettier color. Like this one is just, you know, it's just barely. And that's because I didn't really have a protectant down for my work surface. So I was leery of dropping off the edge of my metal with my alcohol inks. Now if I'd had some newspaper, a number of layers or something to absorb the overflow ink, I could have dropped closer to the edge of my metal and been a little more conservative with my metal use, but this will work just fine. So maybe I have to cut a couple of strips until I get one that I like. This one I can already tell that was prettier than the last one. Definitely don't mind that one. I'm going to do one more. And this is also something you can do if you are just, you know, wanting to spend some time playing with alcohol inks. You can color up a bunch of pieces of metal and then just set them aside and dig into them whenever the project calls for it. Because I know sometimes it's a pain to, you know, every time get out all your alcohol inks and put them away and this and that and the third. So sometimes it's nice to be able to kind of compartmentalize those types of things and be like, okay, well, I'm coloring metal today. And then next time you're going to use the metal. All right, so really love this part of this one. It's got some yellow and red and then that pretty indigo color and the eggplant. And then, not that one. I don't like you, but I do like, I like both parts of this one. So we're going to use this one. And I'm just going to set the rest of these strips aside. Okay, so now I've got two strips of metal. I have the thicker strip of metal and the thinner strip of metal. So now I'm going to cut them to length to make our little earring strips here. Now, this can be as big or as small really as you want, just depending on whether you like big ass earrings or slightly less big ass earrings, or earrings that are not big ass at all. This one is
little ass.
This one's medium ass. Okay. So this one is 2 inches of my thicker, wider strip of metal, and then 1 3/4 inches of my colored metal. So I'm going to go ahead and measure that out, and I'm going to make those cuts. Inches? Are you really 2 inches? Oh, you can be. Alright, so 2 inches of my thicker metal. Yes, I could use a square to mark that. Am I going to? No, I'm just going to eyeball it because that's how we do on the Beading Dream Stream. Alright, and in a situation like this where my waist piece is almost exactly the same size, make sure you know what piece is your waist and what pieces you're going to use. Alright, so those are my 2-inch pieces, over where everyone can see. My 2-inch pieces. Now I'm going to do my 2 1.5-inch pieces of this. And this I'm going to be a little bit more selective about, or not 1.5, 1.75, 1 3/4. So I liked that section, so we're going to cut that off. And then, like, I think this section here, so on this one I'm wasting a little bit more metal just because I'm trying to access the prettiest parts of the alcohol ink. Okay, so now I have the parts of my earring, and at this point I am gonna put my inks away and then I can take off my gloves, because sure as shootin', if I took my gloves off and then put my inks away, one of them would explode on my hands, and then once again I would have a purple fingernail.
Yes, or a lettuce fingernail.
Or a lettuce fingernail, it's true. Though the lettuce doesn't leak as much as the grains of glues for some reason. Okay, so at this point I am done with...
Now you're just challenging it.
I'm done with my inks, so now I can take off my gloves. And any old gloves will do for this. You can use disposables. These are the rewashable ones. I don't usually like working with gloves. I hate not being able to feel things with my hands, but, you know, once again, when you're dealing with things that are going to sting your fingers, you know, for solid, you know, days to a week at a time, I'm willing to get over my dislike of gloves, and that's still staying on. And suck it up. Speaking of, it is caffeine, it's quarter to caffeine o'clock. I actually think it's 45 minutes past caffeine o'clock in my case. Alright, so now we want to... No, I'm full. I just need to put it in my face. Okay, so now we're going to finish the edges of this metal. Even the one that's going to be on the inside of the earring, because even though it's not really going to touch our skin, it's just nicer if it's finished well. And then of course the outside of this is definitely going to touch the side of your neck, and so you definitely don't want that to be rough or scratchy in any way. So we're going to start by taking our rawhide mallet, and you can see how the metal is just a little bit curved from the cutting. So I'm going to take my bench block and my rawhide mallet. I'm just going to pound all of this metal so that it is flat. So I'm just going to put my bench block down there on my work surface and my metal down. For my alcohol ink pieces, I am going to pound them with the ink side up because the mallet is less damaging to the ink than the bench block, were you to put it face down. And notice the alcohol ink really is staying on. Like, it's not chipping, it's not smearing, like, it is on there. It's pretty amazing.
That is amazing.
Okay, so now that everything is flat, I'm just going to grab some of my 320 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to start by just sanding all of the edges of my metal. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and knock down these corners. It's not quite as crucial in an earring as it is in some other things, but it's never nice to have a stabby part on your earring. No one likes it when your earrings stab you. So by the time you're done with your sanding, you should have fairly smooth edges. Like, you should be able to run your finger along the edges of your metal without fear of, you know, lacerating yourself. So I'm just going to do that on all 4 of my pieces. Now, especially on your alcohol ink pieces, make sure you stay on the edges, because if you sand the top, you are going to sand off your color. So after the sandpaper, then if you want a really nice edge, then just grab some fine steel wool and take that around your edges as well. That's going to give you a really nice final finish.
It's all true.
It is all true. And Lord, do I wish that somebody had told me about steel wool and metal years before they actually did. Because
yeah.
I spent so many years, so this is just quadruple zero steel wool, trying to finish the edges of my metal with a file and being so frustrated that I couldn't get them smooth. And finally I took a class with an adorable metal worker from Seattle whose name I cannot for the life of me remember. She was blonde and hilarious. I do remember that. And she was like, and she handed out steel wool. And that was how we finished our edges. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing ever. Never looked back. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and rivet our pieces together on one end. Okay, so when I made my prototypes, I made the giant mistake, and I did the thing we tell you all never to do. I riveted both sides, and then I tried to bend it. The problem with this is we do have two pieces stacked on each other. That means there is actually a difference in the inside curvature and the outside curvature of this, which meant that I got large wrinkles in my inside piece, and I had to actually pound those out on my mandrel. So we're going to try not to do that this evening. So we're going to start by riveting down one side of each of my pieces of colored metal onto my piece of not colored metal. Also, I'm looking here and I can tell you right off the bat that I cut too much of my colored metal. I should have cut 1.5 inches instead of 1 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and nip off that end. So I forgot I needed to compensate for this space here and this space here. This space is where the holes are going to go so we can attach our ear wires. I'm just going to match that. And since I have a fresh cut here, I am going to have to just take my sandpaper quickly, but just to this end. It doesn't have to be any more than that. All right. Looks better? Looks better. Okay, so now I have clear space here and there where I'm going to punch my hole. Okay, so I'm going to center this up on my larger piece of metal, and I'm going to grab my screw down metal punch. Okay, so you could absolutely do this with a drill, but your screw down metal punch is a little bit easier to handle with the two pieces of metal. And of course, as we finally get back to traveling again, your screw down metal punch, of course, is a lot easier to travel with than a drill. I'm going to aim to punch a hole right through the center of my colored piece and down through my non-colored piece as well. So what you're going to do is twist your screw down punch down until you're holding both pieces of metal firmly. You want to make sure that nothing shifted and that you're right in the middle. Then you're going to go ahead and twist that metal punch clockwise until your punch goes through both pieces of metal. So it's going to get harder and then it's going to get easier, and you know it's gone through the metal when the metal will move freely apart from the punch. When that happens, you're going to go ahead and turn your punch counterclockwise until your metal falls off of your pin and falls to your work surface on its own. Okay, do not rip your metal off of your punch. It's not good for the punch.
Okay. Or the metal.
Or the metal. But the punch is more expensive.
Yes.
I'm going to repeat that with my other piece. Just center that up on... Alright, center that up on the metal.
It's just not good for anybody. Don't do it.
And then we're going to... right, so we're going to center that up, and then we're going to twist forward until that punches through the metal. And then we're going to go back. Get off. Okay, so now I have 2 pieces of metal that are ready to be riveted together. So this is where our 1/16 inch eyelets are going to come in. So like I said, the 1/16 inch eyelets are more of a scrapbooking and bookbinding sort of component than necessarily something you find a lot in jewelry. But that same adorable gal from Chicago turned me on to these as a really great way to rivet pieces together so very, very much easier than a traditional tube rivet or a wire rivet or a nail head rivet. Like, so much easier. So the cool thing about these, of course, is since they're eyelets, they come with one end already flared. So I'm just going to put the flared end down on my bench block. And since the way that this earring is designed is that this is actually, you know, this outside face is what's seen, I'm going to put the flared or the finished side of my rivet on that outside. So that means I'm going to drop my large piece of metal on first, and then I'm going to drop my colored piece of metal on. And then setting these rivets is so stinking easy. You don't even need a tool. You just need the round side of your chasing hammer. I'm just going to tap that rivet until it flattens out like so. Seriously, could not be easier. I love eyelets. I mean, I can make a tube rivet. I can make a wire rivet. I can deal with a nail head rivet, but oh my good Lord, why? When this is so much easier. Yes, I know, there are reasons. You need to know those other techniques, but sometimes you just need the quick and dirty way. We're all about the quick and dirty here on the Beading Dream Stream. Okay, so now I'm going to drop this over.
You're the quick, I'm the dirty?
Sure, that works. I don't know if either of us is particularly quick these days.
There.
There you go. So now we're going to bend these. And that's where our giant bail making pliers are going to come in. Now, if you don't have a giant bail making pliers, you can definitely just bend these around a found object that you might have in your home. But I'm going to use ye old giant pliers for this. And remember, in this particular earring design, the colored part is on the inside, though you don't have to adhere to that. If you're like, that's dumb, I'm putting the colored part on the outside, you do you. So I'm just going to grab my metal in my bail making pliers, and I'm just going to start to bend it. And I'm just going to start moving my bail making pliers and bending my metal to create that curve. And one of the reasons I picked copper is it is the softest of the base metals, so it makes it pretty easy to bend. And then if I have this kind of wonky-tasticness that I have going on here, I can put that over.
It's a lot of word.
Well, it's accurate. I mean,
it is.
Are you going to say that it's not wonky-tastic? Because I think it is.
That's fair.
You can put that on a ring mandrel and just give that a hammer to sort of smooth that shape out, because your bail making pliers doesn't always bend a perfectly uniform curve. That's okay. That's why the gods of metalsmithing made hammers and mallets.
Like Hephaestus?
And drills. Yes. I don't know if Hephaestus made rawhide mallets.
Maybe not.
So there we go. So that's my little curved piece with my alcohol ink colored bit on the inside. So now we repeat for our other piece. So I'm just gonna so again, grab that, and what I'm doing is I'm just turning my pliers, and I'm also applying pressure to my metal here. And when I get a little bit of a bend going, then I'm going to move everything down my pliers like so, so that I'm making a shallower curve than actually the curve of my pliers. Because if I were to just bend it, of course, all the way around, I'd make a tighter curve than I wanted to. Then I'm going to take this one and I'm going to use the ring mandrel to straighten it out the same way I did with my other one. Okay, so now I have two of my little smiley face components. Now I need to punch the holes that are going to be the receptacles for my ear wires. So the way that this earring works is that this is where your ear actually hangs. So we have this earring wire that's made out of 20 gauge half hard gold filled wire. But of course I currently don't have anywhere to attach that. I have these two nice little semicircles of metal and I've got no way to put anything on them. So we go back to our good friend, the hole punch. And before I do that, of course, I have to rivet the other side. So let's do that first, shall we? It's really 6 of one, half dozen the other at this point, what order you do the rest of this in. But let's go ahead and rivet this down just so that it's nice and secure. So I'm going to take my hole punch and I'm going to punch right through those 2 layers that I'm trying to rivet. And this is always fun because you gotta, when you're dealing with a shaped piece of metal, like we are right now, you gotta get your, yeah, you gotta get your everything lined up properly. And you gotta have enough room to twist your handle. Twist it till you make your hole.
And then shout at it?
Well, I guess you could if you wanted to.
Sometimes I like to
Shouting
shout
is
at things.
optional.
Okay, that's fair.
Alright, so there's that. And we're going to take our rivet, pop that through there. And go back to our chasing hammer. Set our rivet. Or apparently, if you're me, you're going to drop it out of the hole onto the bench block.
One choice.
I think it's the best choice. There we go. Alright, so I've got that in that hole. And then just set it.
I don't like to judge, just count.
Okay. Alright, get in there and set that with your chasing hammer. And there we go. Now we repeat with the other one. Because of course that's what we do with earrings, is we do one thing and then we repeat it on the second earring. That's the wrong side of the punch. That wasn't Dion. I don't know what you all are talking about.
I never said a word. This time.
I can feel the judgment from the other side of the computer.
I understand. My judgment is potent
It's true.
and plentiful.
Alright. So there is my hole. And I'm going to grab my last rivet. Drop that on my bench block. Drop my metals on top of it. Maybe. Come on. Helps if you have your 2 holes lined up. Oh dear. And now it's on the floor. But where on the floor?
Always the question. Ah,
Found it. Of course, then there's always the fun of getting up off the floor. Okay. Woo. Sorry, that was a lot of exercise for me in one day. All right, so once again, I got my rivet on my bench block. Line up your holes and drop your metal over your rivet, and then set that with your chasing hammer. All right, there we go. Now we punched the holes for our. Now we go quick fix our shape with our ring mandrel. 1, 2. All right, so now we're going to punch our holes. And I am going to stupid proof this one just a bit. I'm going to mark these. Marker. So while I'm marking these, just a reminder that it is Saturday night. That means it is a live sale stream night here on the Beading Dream stream. We are still doing Martini Month. And in honor of my birthday, I have chosen the martini for tonight, which is the precursor to the sidecar, which is one of my favorite cocktails. And that cocktail is called the what, Heather?
Brandy Crusta.
Brandy Crusta. So after the stream, after the tutorial stream, we will be mixing up some lovely Brandy Crustas, and we'll be rejoining you back on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream, between 7:30 and 7:45 for our live merchandise sale. We have more new fun gemstone beads for you tonight. I've got a few more kind of earthy tones because I feel like I offended all of the earth tone people with all of the multitudes of shiny stuff that I had on Wednesday. Though Wednesday was a pretty legendary sale just as far as shenanigans that will go down in the record book. So I will, of course, recap that. That's in the 7:30, 7:45 sale as well. If you're new to the Beading Dream stream, we do that live sale every Wednesday and every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. We've got gemstone beads for you tonight. Like I said, some more earth tones, some more natural things, and a little bit of shiny too. Because what's a good beading stream without shiny? I mean, come on. It's a beading stream. So that's the exciting thing that's happening tonight. It's going to be the live merchandise sale, and then we will, of course, be dark Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and then rolling right into next week's streaming, starting off with this project. That's going to be our Wednesday 6 p.m. project next week. I have called these the dance earrings because it was very, very late when I was complying the class info this week, and they came, or they were inspired by earrings from the Sundance catalog. So there you go. They're the dance earrings. Some days I'm creative, some days I am just not. But that's what we're going to be rolling into at 6 p.m. on Wednesday to start our new week of streaming next week. But of course, we need to finish out this week of streaming first. So once I'm done with these earrings, once again, we're going to have an awesome live merchandise sale. And then after that, Heather and I are going to go to bed. Or at least go home and work at home instead of going to bed. But we're going to leave Beading Dreams, which at the end of a long week is always nice. It's always nice, even if you're going to work at home. It's nice to change scenes. It's nice to be like, hey, I am going to do this work in a different place, and also in a place where I can wear my pajamas. Because pajamas aren't strictly dress code at Beading Dreams. Okay, so I've got all my holes punched. Now I'm going to cut my 20 gauge wire. So this is 20 gauge half hard wire. And the main thing about half hard is it's a little bit springier than dead soft. So it's a little bit better for things like earring wires where they're gonna, be under a bit of stress. So I'm gonna cut 2 3-inch pieces of that wire. And you can vary this length depending on how long you want your earring to be. So the longer your earring is, or the longer you want your earring to be, and I'm talking about basically this height here from the earring to the top of the ear wire, you just cut yourself a longer piece of wire. Now it's time for me to grab my trusty basic wire working pliers. That's going to be my round nose and my chain nose. I'm going to start by taking my round nose, grabbing the very end of my wire. Ooh, well, that's not the right focal distance for what I'm doing now, camera. Also, where is the camera? I mean, I know where the camera is, but oh, for goodness sakes, I couldn't find it in my sources. Also, while I'm at it, let's get a little bit more light on this. When I have metal on camera, the camera's like, woohoo! Shiny, shiny, shiny! And everything is just completely blown out, which isn't really helpful. So, gotta turn the exposure down for metal. Okay, there we go. Awesome. So, I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to grab at the very end of my wire, and I'm just going to roll my pliers around. See how I'm starting to create a loop? When I can't move my wrist anymore, I'm just going to loosen my pliers, rotate them back, grab again, and then roll until my loop is closed. Repeat with your other wire. So 2 loops. Notice I did not center these loops, okay? These loops are what we call non-centered loops in the beading world. And pretty much everywhere. They're called non-centered loops if they're not centered. Alright, then I'm going to grab my bail making pliers and I'm going to just put them approximately at the middle of my wire. I want them a little closer to my loop than to my wire end. And just pull your wire down over your bail making pliers. And so what you want is when you make this loop, you want this straight end to extend just a little bit, like 1/8 of an inch or so beyond this piece here. Repeat, so grab that in your bail making pliers, just bend your 2 pieces down, and again, you want that there to be about 1/8 of an inch longer than this. Then this end is going to get sanded or filed, whatever you have handy. Sandpaper, emery board, file. What you just want to do is knock off that rough edge there so that when you put it in your ear, it doesn't hurt. Ta-da! So file would work, sandpaper would work, like I said, whatever you have handy is all good. Then I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers and I'm just going to grab that 1/8 of an inch that's sticking down past my loop, and I'm just going to bend it at a 90-degree angle. So this is actually the latch for your earrings. So I'm going to grab your wire, bend 90 degrees. There we go. Now we just attach them. Open up the loop that you made. The only sort of difficult part of this is you've got to put them on the right way. So this is correct, where your ear wire is going across your earring and your little latch is aligning with your loop, okay? This is wrong, where your earring is over here and your ear wire is over there. That's not functional. So let's put that back on the other way. And we're going to go ahead and close that up. Just like any loop that we're closing, we want to make sure that we close it so that there is no airspace at all between the end of the wire and the main wire of your earring. And then the last thing that's important with an ear wire closure like this is, like a number of other things that we've done, the thing that keeps these closed, that keeps these on your ears, is going to be tension. So what I want to do is I just want to bend this out a little bit so that when I bring it back in here and snap this into its little hole, like so, it's going to stay in there nice and securely. Okay, so tension is important on a closure like this. Now we repeat with the other earring. Of course, we're just going to grab that wire, twist that open, make sure you twist it open enough. All right, make sure you've got it on the right way. Close it up. Oh dear, in a bad way? Do we need to call the firemen?
I don't know. Do we need to call the firemen, Steve? Yep, we do.
Okay, it looks like we may have firemen visiting between streams. All right, and then once again, you're going to just open that up to get some tension, and snap that in there. And there you go. Those are your earrings. So actually, we made these slightly smaller than my prototype. I think for myself, I actually like this size. I do like large earrings, but I also do run around like a chicken with my head cut off most days. So something a little bit smaller is nice. But you can see the alcohol ink bits are preserved on the inside there, and they're just a little bit of extra kind of fun. There's no reason you couldn't also texture the outside of these instead of leaving them smooth, so that you could have party on the inside and party on the outside. Because of course, we all know the Beading Dream stream is all about the party, at least when it comes to earrings. So that's it. That's our Peekaboo earrings project for today. These fun copper earrings with the alcohol ink. She's disappointed because no firemen.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I can knock you down again. So, thank you all so much for hanging out with us on the Beading Dream stream this Saturday night for our Peekaboo earrings class. A little bit of metalworking, a little bit of alcohol ink, a whole lot of fun. This is a really great project. It has lots of applications as well. Now that I've remembered how cool alcohol inks on metal are, probably going to be doing some more of this work in the future. But for now, hey, I'm Allison from Beading Dreams in Dallas, Texas. We are an actual brick and mortar retail bead store. We are here on Lovers Lane in Dallas, and we are open for business to feed your need to bead Monday through Saturday from 1 p.m. until 6 p.m. That means we're closed tomorrow, but we are here 6 days a week for all my Dallas locals. If you are not local in Dallas, you can find us on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, 5 times a week with complimentary tutorials. We do stream Wednesday through Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time, plus a bonus stream Thursdays at noon, and live merchandise sales every Wednesday and Saturday at 7:30-ish p.m. So this is Saturday. That means that in about 30 minutes, that's going to be about 7:45 tonight, we are going to have a live merchandise sale. It is our Sips Shopping and Shenanigans sale. That means that we are guaranteed to get silly. We're going to be drinking brandy somethings, Crustas, brandy Crustas, which is a fun vintage cocktail. So if you want to participate in the live sale, mix yourself a cocktail if you're so inclined. Grab yourself a snack. Grab yourself some hydration, get comfy, get cozy, and get ready for some retail therapy in your living room, office, or wherever you do watch the Beading Dream stream. So it's time for me to sign off and go get everything ready for the sale, close the shop, and be back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, in just about half an hour. If you're not going to catch the sale, don't forget, we'll be back on Wednesday at 6 p.m. with that earring class, the dance earrings. And if you're not going to make it to that tutorial, we hope we're going to see you on a Beading Dream stream really soon. So I am going to go get stuff ready for the sale, and we'll be back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, in just 30 minutes.